Xavier Disley is an elite sports performance consultant and an aerodynamics expert. If you look closely at the bikes ridden in the World Tour, you might start noticing a lot of Aerocoach products designed by Xavier and his team. We asked him what the biggest wastes of money are when it comes to upgrading your bike, and this is what he told us.
So if you buy yourself a brand new bike and it's not comfortable and the geometry is not correct and you can't get into the right position for you, whether that means that you can't get as aero as you want to, or it just means that it's not comfortable and you're sat bolt upright on the bike because it hurts, or you don't go out and do enough riding, that is sometimes a bit of a failing. So you need to make sure that if you're buying a brand new bike and you've got a bike upgrade, that you've done your research, that you know that you can achieve the same position on the bike in terms of its adjustability, then you'll be fine. Whereas if you just go straight in and you just buy the brand new bike and you haven't done your homework, then potentially you could be slowing yourself down or not improving your speed at all, and you might have spent a lot of money to do so. Another upgrade that you could make to your bike that wouldn't necessarily be too helpful is your group set. Now, everyone likes a new group set, and a new flashy electronic group set is great, but it's not going to speed you up, okay? It might make your life a little bit easier because the shifting's a bit better, or maybe you have better gearing, but a lot of these things can be achieved with relatively low-end group sets that don't cost a lot of money. So if you're looking for an upgrade to your bike that's going to make you faster, don't spend it on the group set, because all that's going to do is allow you to shift better. It's not necessarily going to make you faster when you're out on the road. Something else that you might want to do is maybe get a lighter bike or a lighter frame, but you do really have to think about the durability of your components and whether it's actually going to make you faster. We've done a lot of testing and we know that just getting a light bike isn't going to make you necessarily quicker outside, especially if it's less aero than before, because most of the time you're not going uphill constantly. There'll be periods of time where you're on the flat, you're going downhill, and that's where a lighter bike that may be less aero isn't such a good idea. So if you're looking for an upgrade to your bike, just focusing on weight isn't really the way to go. You may be sacrificing some durability as well. So I'd say ignore weight for the moment and focus more on things that will really have an impact on you, the rider. So you're making sure that a new frame has got the right position for you rather than just being lighter. In the same way that buying a lighter frame might not make you more faster out on the road, also getting the latest and greatest aerodynamic frame probably isn't going to save you 15-20 watts or something over your current bike. There will be an improvement, and if you're going from an old round tube bike from the 1980s to the latest and greatest carbon fiber aero bike, you will notice an improvement there. However, if you're just taking this year's manufacturer's aero bike and you're moving to the next year, you're probably not going to see a huge improvement, if any at all. So upgrading a bike purely for the sake of it being the next year's model, if it doesn't really offer you anything different to the current one, but it's 1 watt more aerodynamic, I would say is probably not the way to go. You see some riders, especially in the big races, using quite deep wheels on flat stages. So in the Tour de France, if you're doing a sprint or something like that, those sorts of things aren't really relevant for the recreational cyclist. So if you have a wheel that's like 90 mil deep, 100 mil deep, it's really not going to be as good of an upgrade for you if you've already got a wheel that's sort of 40 or 50 mil deep. I'd say for a recreational rider, that's kind of the sweet spot, and that's where you want to be sitting, rather than thinking, no, I've got to have an 80 mil or a 90 mil wheel. If you're doing a time trial or something like that, then that's totally different. But recreational riding, I wouldn't say that looking at your wheels to go deeper and deeper and deeper is really a good value for money upgrade. The industry these days has moved heavily towards disc brakes. Now, are disc brakes going to make you faster? No. Are they slightly nicer for braking and make your ride quality a little bit better? Yeah, probably, but it's not going to improve your speed on a ride. So if you're purely thinking about speed, disc brakes aren't going to be the thing that speeds you up. And there are lots of people out there with rim brake bikes. There's still a lot of components that are compatible with rim brake bikes, whether it's wheels and group sets and things like that. And so following the trend and just going to disc brakes because you think it's going to make you faster isn't necessarily the way to go. There are better bikes these days, and all of the bikes nowadays are going to be made with disc brakes. So if you are going to do a bike upgrade, it'll probably be a disc brake bike. So that's absolutely fine. But I think if you have an apples to apples comparison between your current bike and this very similar bike that's disc brakes, then unless you think it's going to dramatically improve your ride experience, and you go up and down a lot of mountains or something and you need the brakes, then that's probably not an upgrade that's worth the money. Some of the components you can put on your bike can get really expensive these days. A good example would be a special jockey cage that saves you potentially a few watts, but it costs you a lot of money, would be something maybe to avoid if you're looking for a good way to improve your speed on the bike but not spend a lot of money. We've seen companies make jockey cages and charge, you know, 4 figures for them sometimes for special limited edition things. And although they look quite fun and it makes your bike look great on the Sunday club run, I'd suggest that that's probably not an area that you want to really worry about. These days, group set manufacturers do have durable and, you know, pretty low friction jockey wheels anyway, and I think that's probably an area that you need to leave until you've absolutely maxed out every other part of your bicycle componentry. When you're looking to upgrade your bike, a lot of people talk about ceramic bearings everywhere, and you know, as a component manufacturer ourselves, we tend to shy away from it a little bit, because if you have a very, very high quality steel bearing, then it can be vastly better than a very low quality ceramic bearing. Sometimes you may have problems with durability. Often you're going to have to retrofit these things yourself, and if you don't have the correct tools or you're not experienced in doing it, then potentially you can damage the components you're trying to change to ceramic bearings. So although there are some potential savings in some situations, we tend to not recommend that people swap to ceramic bearings for everything. Again, if you want to max out everything, then yeah, maybe you can do, but really a very high quality steel bearing is going to be, you know, less expensive most of the time, less likely to go wrong when you try and install it, and it would be the thing that we'd recommend rather than changing everything to ceramic bearings. Something we've seen people do before is focus on chains. Drivetrain efficiency is really important. And although companies make really expensive super light chains that are, you know, potentially low friction, all this kind of thing, it's not really a good use of money to spend $300, $400, you know, $500 or so on a chain. But if you get a brand new chain, that's a better way of doing things. So don't worry about the super light chain that is, you know, going to save you 0.1% of your efficiency. Make sure you keep your chain clean, and if you just use lots of cheap chains and just replace them a little bit more regularly, that's a way better use of money than spending too much money on a really expensive chain that you then let it get rusty after a week or so. Everyone likes data, right? I'm a sucker for it. I'm sure other people are too. But if you have a device that gives you data and you don't know what to do with it, then that is a waste of money. And a power meter is a perfect example of that. Putting a power meter on your bike is not going to speed you up, okay? Having a power meter and knowing how to use it, maybe you have a coach or you understand a bit about training, you've done some reading or you follow a training program, that's gonna help. But if you don't know how to use a power meter and you just slap it on your bike, it's just making your bike a little bit heavier most of the time. So I definitely suggest that if you're looking to find something to speed you up, if you know how to use a power meter, then great, then that will be a good tool for you. But if you haven't done the research, then it's just going to be an expensive paperweight and it's going to slow you down.
That's all for today's video. Have you bought any of those things? Let us know what you've wasted your money on when it comes to bikes in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to this channel for more.